All right, teammates. So, in preparation for our Unit 2 assessment tomorrow, I want to make sure that we are really using all of our knowledge to be able to identify division expressions in multiple different types of models. Even though you may not be asked to draw models, you will be expected to evaluate models, including tape diagrams and what we're going to look at in this example. So this is very, very similar to a tape diagram, but instead of using the different number of boxes to represent the amounts, we are using a number line. So looking at this example, it says which model represents 2 divided by 2/4. Okay, so it doesn't ask me to evaluate the expression first. It doesn't ask me to find a quotient. It is simply asking me to determine which one of these 4 choices is going to match up in a visual way to this expression. So the first thing I ask myself is, what do I know about this expression? I know that my dividend is 2. So this is what I'm starting with. That is the whole total that I start with. So I know that if I were to draw a tape diagram, I would start off by drawing 2 whole tape diagrams. Okay, so what I am starting with is my 2, and then my divisor is 2/4. So this means I'm either looking for a number of groups or a group size. If I am looking at a number line like I am with all 4 of these, I am looking at my group size. I know I'm looking at a group size because I see that my number line is split into fractional pieces. So now that I know what my dividend is and what my divisor is, I am going to look and evaluate what information is presented to me in the models. The first thing I want to determine is what whole number is represented in these number lines and how can I identify that. So looking at this first one, I see that there are 4 circles, and those 4 circles fall between the integers of 0 and 4. So I see that there are whole numbers already labeled on my number line, but I also know that the scale of this number line is not 1. I'm recalling some information that we learned over a month ago, but remember that a scale of a number line can be less than 1. It can be a fraction. I know that the scale of this number line is a fraction because I see these fractional pieces in between my whole numbers. So the thing I need to determine is what is the scale of this number line, aka what am I counting by between each tick mark. So remember how I have to do this. I need to pick an interval. So I'm just going to pick the interval between 0 and 1. I know that I subtract, so 1 minus 0 is equal to 1. 1 represents my numerator. And then I count how many individual pieces are in between that interval. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So my scale is 1/4, meaning every tick mark I'm counting by fourths. So when I look at all the rest of my number lines that are options for these models, I see that they too are counting. I see that there's 1 whole labeled. However, in between, I still see that I am counting by fourths. Okay, so all these number lines are identical in the way that they are set up. The difference that I am noticing is these circles. So now that I know the scale, I will be able to identify what is labeled on this number line. So when looking at these diagrams, these circles are representing groups. Okay, so those circles are representing a divisor. The whole number, or the distance that it covers on the number line, is going to represent the dividend. So let's evaluate this first one. I see that there are groups in between 0 and 4. So when I am looking at this problem, I know that my dividend, what I'm starting with, the whole amount or the total amount is 4. And I am splitting them into groups of, let's see what one group size is. One group size is in between 0 and 1. So that means I am dividing by 1. Because I go from 0 to 1. And then I can also double check because I know that 4 divided by 1 is 4. How many total circles are on this number line? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so does this match our expression up here? No. So this first one is not going to work. All right, let's evaluate our second one. I know that the whole number or the distance that is covered on the number line is going to be my dividend. So I see that my dividend here, I'm only covering the distance between 0 and 1. So my dividend is 1. And then I'm dividing by, let's see what our group size is. Our group size is covering 2 of these smaller spaces. I know that my scale is 1/4. So if I am covering 2 of these spaces, that means I am covering 1/4, 2/4. So I'm dividing 1 by 2/4, which is the same as 1/2. If I have 1 divided by 1/2 or split in half, my quotient is 2. I can double check that this is correct because there are 2 groups on this number line. Okay, so again, 1 divided by 2/4 does not match our expression up here, so the second number line is not going to work either. All right, so now I'm looking at this third one. I need to ask myself, okay, what is the distance covered in this number line? aka how much space is covered by these groups. I see that there is covered from 0 to 2, so that means 2 is my dividend. And then I need to ask myself, okay, what is the group size? So what is my divisor going to be based on this based on this number line? I see that my space is very similar to the number line we just looked at. It covers 2 of these spaces, so that means we're covering 1/4 and then 2/4. Okay, so each group represents 2/4. So 2 divided by 2/4. Hopefully this looks familiar because it matches our expression that we started with. I can also determine if this is correct because I can check my work. If I'm using the standard algorithm, I'm going to use keep, change, flip. So I'm going to have 2 over 1 times 4 over 2. 2 and 2 can cross simplify or cross cancel. And then I'm just left with 4. And I see that there are 4 equal size groups in this model. Just to make sure that we have chosen the correct number line or the correct model, let's evaluate this last number line. I see that I am covering the distance between 0 and 4. So there are smaller groups within that. So therefore 4 is my dividend. And I need to find my group size. Again, I see my group size is 2/4. But when I ask myself, does this match the expression we started with? No, it does not because it has a dividend of 4 and not 2. So which model represents 2 divided by 2/4? It is this third number line. Okay, so just to make sure that we can look at it without all those other distracting colors, 2 divided by 2/4 is represented by this model because these smaller groups of 2/4, aka our divisor, are represented by these circles showing the groups of 2/4. I know these are groups of 2/4 because the scale of this number line is 1/4. So if there are 2 tick marks covered in the group, that means 2/4 are covered. So my group size is 2/4, and then I see that I'm finding how many groups of 2/4 fall between 0 and 2, meaning 0 to 2 shows me that my dividend is 2.